Hello and welcome to TCG Buzz. My name is Jacob, and I am joined by my good buddy Rhydon for a bit of a somber affair today.
That is correct, Jacob. It is good to be here with you, but the topic today is something I'd really rather not us need to have to discuss, but it's something that is very important for us to bring up. There is a bad actor in the indie tabletop industry right now.
Yeah, and we have a lot of experience with this. We've got a lot we want to talk about and share. So bear with us as we go through all of this. There's a lot of context. This is something that's been ongoing for a long time, but in essence, we are talking about a trading card game called Wildhearts and how they are, well, honestly, lying to everyone.
Yeah, no, just absolutely. It's a very cut and dry case in this instance.
This is not a particularly big game. We're not talking like a Lorcana level, a Digimon level, a Yu-Gi-Oh level. This is a small indie game, and I don't like taking down small indie guys, but they're doing something actually really sinister. So we are addressing it because someone needs to. Particularly, we're doing it now because of the fact that they are launching a new Kickstarter soon-ish, and we want to warn people before that happens.
Yeah, I
So,
believe this Kickstarter is happening later this week.
yes. So, what we are going to do is discuss it, and specifically, what are they doing wrong? Well, we not just believe, but we know, but we're going to say we believe. We
Yeah.
believe that Wildhearts TCG, while having raised 17,000 plus dollars and soon to be more, has knowingly deceived their players and the gaming community by using AI art, not disclosing it, and actively denying it repeatedly.
Yeah. And we have a lot of evidence to back this case up, as well as we're going to be going over how we first really came into contact with these folks and how this story came to us and when and why we realized it needed to be addressed.
Right. And before we do that, a bit of a disclaimer. Now is not the time for a discussion of AI art bad. That's not what we're here for. We are specifically talking about this because they are not disclosing their AI art anywhere and are actively hiding it.
Correct. It's we can, the whole like ethics of AI art itself, that's a topic for another day. That's not even on the table here. This is about them lying and deceiving their audience and selling something on false claims and phony promises. And I even stand by, I do think that there are instances where use of generative AI can be genuinely applicable, especially in the prototyping phase. But no matter when you use it and how you use it, you need to be honest about it. And that goes for any tool, any process that you use in the indie space. When it comes to the indie tabletop gaming world, transparency is key. And if you choose to lie, bad things will happen to you.
And your players.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, precisely.
So we are talking about this, and we've known this is an issue for quite a long time. Specifically, I first became aware of Wild Hearts like a year and a half ago, I want to say. It's been quite a journey. You see, I am the head mod of r/TCG. Unironic Reddit mod here. It is just something that I do because it's a community that needs moderation. It's the literally the only subreddit I moderate, but I do take a lot of pride in the fact that that's me. I do the work there. I've kept that community up for years and it's been growing. So I am on the front lines of seeing new games. Chances are if someone goes, "Hey, have you group of people heard of this new game?" I'm probably the person who has. And the I've known about this one for a long time. They've been posting in my subreddit for a long time, as well as being active and posting in Tabletop Aces, another group that I own that we joint run, that is a Discord community for people who are indie developers looking for work or looking for advice or looking to just connect.
Exactly. And Tabletop Aces is specifically how we really came into contact with them. and how we had a direct conversation with them. One thing to point out, I think, almost right off the gate is I've also seen Wildhearts Reddit posts over the past year or so. None of them are good, and they've had a lot of criticism in their posts that they never appropriately or properly address. I know that taking criticism is hard, but setting all of your videos to private when you do get criticism is a really bad look. It makes it look like you have something to hide.
It definitely does. So the big thing is AI artwork, and I've been following this game for a long time. You've been following it for a long time. A lot of our peers in the industry have been following it because everywhere they go, they get asked or commented on about one thing in particular. It's, is this game AI? Or more specifically, a lot of people are just like, yeah, this is AI, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Several professional artists in the tabletop sphere that I know and I'm friends with have just flat out said it's very clearly AI, right?
Yeah,
And
every time they have come up anywhere, I get unsolicited messages, DMs from people saying, "Do you see this?"
mhm. And these are allegations that I take very, very seriously. A bit of a personal story is another artist that I know was accused of using generative AI about a year ago or so. The second I heard about these allegations, I immediately called one of my other artist friends who is a professional artist. He would know. And we spent an entire evening just sitting down, combing through the accusee's entire portfolio, checked all the allegations, checked the entire portfolio, and it came back clean, right? It like
Mm-hmm.
we determined, okay, this artist does not use generative AI. So these are allegations that I take very, very, very seriously. These are very serious allegations. And and all of the artists that I know understand completely that when they say somebody is using AI artwork, that's a serious allegation. And no one I know would ever say that in the artist field without being 100% certain.
I definitely agree with that. And we have many artists we know who have gone on deep diatribes on this. They have done the work, and you'll be seeing a lot of that later on if you're watching the YouTube video of this. There will be examples on screen provided by several of our artist friends, their analyses, their sleuthing, their detective work. But also, I want to say part of the reasons we're only talking about this now, they've already had two successful Kickstarters. They've already been around for a year. We've been aware of them for at least a year. We've not talked about this till now because we have been careful. For one thing, a game getting accused of using AI and not disclosing it is a very serious allegation. You don't want to throw those around willy nilly. But also, there's a chance that it was a mistake, right? It was the first thing we questioned was, did they have some rogue artist who came in and, you know, without their knowledge used AI tools and they just didn't catch it?
Yeah, and that's something that happens. There's a indie game that we know that told us about a very similar story to that, where they were working on a new product and it came to light that one of the artists that they had working on the product was using generative AI. Immediately, that developer we were talking to removed that artist, denounced that artist, and had that artwork redone because, that's just not acceptable. Like, if you are a developer and you're being lied to, that's the normal route and the normal action to take. And we'll be, talking about how Wild Hearts has not done that. So therefore, I do not believe that this was an honest mistake by any
Right.
means.
There are several responses they've given and several steps they've taken that you would only do if you knowingly were using AI and trying to deceive people.
Correct.
And additionally, it's not just from one artist. I do think there are some people they have worked with that made real illustrations. Please don't go out there attacking artists directly, even though I will say you probably can't because they are intentionally extremely vague with
Hmm.
who their actual artists are. They get a first name and a last initial, which is weird. That's
Yeah,
weird.
that's not normal. That is absolutely not normal. I mean, what you're going to find these days, more often than not, of artist full names in the indie scene, you'll actually have like at AC Faust or whatever to point to the artist's social media credit. Like you'll actually see in the artist credits like they're just social media handles, right?
And
So that way people
they've
can easily find them.
right, and they've been asked before by other people, "Hey, can you link to your artists?" Right?
Mhm.
Very benign, and they've gotten super weird and defensive about it.
Unbelievably cagey. It is like no, like man, I don't know. If a potential fan out there was like, "Oh, hey, your art's really interesting. Can I get a link to the artists?" I would immediately be like, "Yes, here's my entire like Rolodex of everybody who's worked on this game. Go follow them. Go tell them that you found their artwork via our products because that just strengthens the relationship that I would have to that artist. Like it's objectively good for everybody involved as the developer to have people be fans of the people that you work.
Yes, I absolutely agree. They could have handled it so much better if they were being genuine.
Correct.
I don't see any way at this point that they did not knowingly use and lie about AI artwork. So we're going to go over that. And specifically, we have to start with an event that happened with one of their team members joining our server Tabletop Aces. They were not the first member of the team to join. They were, I think, the third member of the team to join. And they joined much later than the others had. The others had posted a bunch of their work many months beforehand and then kind of quietly disappeared. They were still in the server, but they had not spoke in several months.
Yeah, they did one of those things that happens all the time in Tabletop Aces where somebody new will join, say hi, shill the thing they're looking to shill, contribute nothing, and then bounce. If you do that, nobody in our community is going to follow up with you, like you, or support you. Like, come on, obviously. So it was one of those things where like they just like posted a link to something and then bounced, and it was largely
Yeah, so this new person joined who they seemed like a really nice person. They contributed, they said some very nice things to people. In fact, they're still active in our server and have said some very nice things about other people's work. And the conversation I had with them began with, "Hey, you seem like a really cool person. Let's talk and, hang out." And I watched some videos they had participated in, and I commented that they were nice and I was liking the stuff they were doing, blah, blah, blah. And then several people in our community popped in to ask about the AI artwork in their game because, unrelated to us following it, a lot of other people, I think, have known about this in the background and they saw their opportunity to directly ask about it, and they did.
absolutely. So one of our friends like directly like responded to Wildhearts team member A, the one that had just joined, and just point blank asked, "Hey, I've seen a lot of talk around about possible use of AI artwork in your game. Do you use it?" And this friend of ours was actually extremely cordial, and this friend of ours directly mentioned that, they did not necessarily have a problem with games using some AI generative artwork. They specifically mentioned that they had, backed and supported and played and collected some games that did have some AI generated artwork, being extremely cordial about it. This friend of ours that asked could not have been less aggressive and could not have been more understanding to their situation when asking this question. Just very politely, very understandingly, very kindly asked, "Hey, do you use generative AI to make your artwork?"
Right. And I'd say that the rest of our community also were incredibly welcoming and cordial to this person.
Absolutely. Yes.
I think we have cultivated a very nice, respectful community, and I'm genuinely so appreciative of that. All the people in Tabletop Aces are nice people, and they build others up, and I really appreciate that. And this is the type of situation that could easily have turned aggressive and nasty and unwelcoming, and it didn't. So
It
I
didn't.
just want to say, hey, shout out to you guys for being cool.
Yep. You know who you guys are. We love you.
So they directly responded and said, no, the game does not use AI artwork. Now, at this time, I still had a small percentage chance in my mind that it could have been a mistake and, some artist slipped stuff in. I had not looked that far into it at this point
Same.
to say whether or not yes or no. I had heard a lot of things. I had heard artists comment on it, but I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they responded very directly, no, it doesn't use AI artwork. And they then provided some sketches to prove that it was not AI artwork, which I then immediately got a flood of DMs from various people saying, look at these sketches, they're AI made, and here's my theory as to how they did it. With several different theories, but generally ranging that they started with the finished artwork and then built an AI sketch after the fact. Now,
Yes.
I'll say here, I am no expert on AI artwork, and I don't think you are either, right?
I would say I have more familiarity with the subject entirely because for my job at Speedrobo Games, I'm the final shot caller on who does and does not get commission work with us and who does and does not get hired to be part of our art team. And so part of that process is vetting people for potential generative AI use because that is a big risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've definitely trained up my eye on seeing what is and is not AI. And I'll say point blank, the second I saw these sketches from Wildhearts, I was like, well, that doesn't pass the sniff test like at all. No.
Yeah, and we do know some people, and even some who I don't really talk to. Some
Hmm.
people solicited me directly saying, "Hey, so this is absolutely 100% AI. I am an artist. It's always artists. They're very passionate about this,
Yes,
rightfully so, right? And
absolutely.
they are lying. I received a lot of them that night and had a lot of long conversations with these people about it, and our community continued to ask them. And I remember I sent a message to this person that was just like, hey, hope you're not finding things a little too hostile. I know just a lot of people have really been looking for an answer to this question because I didn't want to scare this person away, right? And
Exactly.
again, giving them the benefit of the doubt, especially if you're in a role where you're not directly involved with the development of the game and sourcing the artwork, I could see you not being aware, right?
Absolutely. Like I've said earlier, I know of multiple stories where this has happened to my peers in the industry where they just were not aware at all of the use of generative AI from somebody that they commissioned, where they flat out got scammed even. I would go so far to say as by a generative AI user and that where that user said, "Oh no, I'm not using it," passes in something that is just good enough to slip under the radar. I've heard it happen multiple times. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. I was giving Wild Hearts the benefit of the doubt at first too, and I was very suspicious, but it's possible, right? Like it's possible that something got slipped in at this point in our story.
Right. And, lots of our members were asking questions, and I took it upon myself to try and get a definitive answer. So what I did was I tagged the other two members of their team who had previously been posting about it in our server. I went back and found exactly who they were, and I tagged them and saying something like, "Hey, there's a lot of discussion about this. Can you chime in on it?" Right?
Hmm.
Because again, I was giving the benefit of the doubt to the first person. Maybe they simply didn't know because that was not their department, very literally. So I wanted to go to the rest of the team, and I got a response from one of them, and it was not very good. It was, first of all, they didn't address the actual question at all. They skirted around the issue as hard as I've ever seen someone skirt around the issue. In very, corporate speak answer. It was not what we were hoping to hear from them, and it did not actually answer the question one way or the other or provide any real insight.
Yeah. And, as I recall their response, again, as somebody who deals with a lot of like artwork commission and works very closely with the artists that I work with, the response just didn't even make sense to me. I wasn't even sure what they were trying to say at some points because they mentioned something about like layers. And it's like, what are you talking about, dude? What relevance does that have to the discussion at all? It did not make sense.
Yeah, it was a response that was very much just like sleight of hand, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
trying to move us away from the discussion in any way possible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have to give the most minuscule amount of respect for actually responding.
Yeah.
That's
Something was said. I'll give them that. But
that's the
honestly,
best we can give.
yeah, but honestly, I think it would have just been because this is kind of one of my talking points in this whole discussion is, you know, if you're going to lie, at least be smart about it. And they just aren't. It genuinely would have been a smarter move to not say anything than spout obvious lies.
Right. And I've seen similar responses from them and their team all over the internet. Every one of
Mm-hmm.
their social media accounts, other people's social media accounts.
Yeah, it's all the same.
It's all the same. It's all weird. It's all obtuse. It's all skirting around the question while being very definitive. No, it is not AI at the same time.
Yep, which is not good.
So I then, as the owner of the group, I wrote out a very serious message responding to that person. And I was just like, I need to stress to you how important this question is, because we are not asking if your game uses AI. That is not the question here. The question here is, will you be honest about it? Especially since at this point, I'm pretty at 100% this is AI artwork, but I'm giving them like one final reel out to this.
Mm-hmm.
I I was trying to give them something, right? And be fair. I wasn't trying to attack them or anything like that. I was just like, look, man, this is really serious. This is your chance to pull the brakes on this whole thing. You know, this is your chance to not end up in the worst possible situation,
To not
right?
end up where we are right now with us doing this podcast.
Mm-hmm. And seriously, I cannot stress how much we did not want to do this podcast.
No, we really didn't. This was not at all planned, meditated, celebrated at all. This is not a topic we wanted to have to cover. I would so much rather Wildhearts just woke up and said, "You know what? You're right. You got us.
But
It
that's
is that,
but that's the
please."
thing. Even if they had come clean about it, I do honestly feel it would have been irredeemable. Setting aside some of the real consequences of this, like the fact that they did not properly disclose on their Kickstarters that they use AI, which is against Kickstarter's terms of service.
It is.
Although Kickstarter's terms of service are an absolute joke. They do not really ban anything. They don't really get rid of anything. They
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've kind of gray area worked around some Kickstarter terms of service stuff before. Like, charity projects aren't allowed on Kickstarter, but one of the board games I'd released was like, oh, hey, for every copy sold here, I'll do an X donation, right? Which is kind of against TOS, right? But like, yeah, it's against Kickstarter TOS, even though Kickstarter never enforces it ever at any.
No, they are incredibly light with their moderation, to put it generously.
Mm-hmm.
But think about the consequences of this. Not only is there that actual potential consequence, there's the legal consequence of
Absolutely.
blatant false advertising to your consumers. But one of the big ones, and this is something you can totally vouch for, is in this industry, the indie tabletop game industry, reputation is everything.
Absolutely. And to quote the Teen Titans animated series, or paraphrase, I suppose would be better, trust is easily destroyed, but impossible to gain.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, do you want to know what their response was?
Yes, I would love to, even though I already know. I'm going to pretend I'm the audience. I would love to know what the response is, Jacob. Please tell me
Their
what.
response was nothing.
Yeah.
We were ghosted. Basically the worst outcome. I know you had just said earlier, like, honestly, like, the smart thing would have been to not say anything at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you are being evil businessman, right? But at this point, it was not, right?
Correct. But in the situation before, when they were tagged, the smart thing would have been to not say anything and just let team member A continue to handle it, because that team member was doing not a terrible job of handling this PR nightmare. Not a good job, but not a terrible job.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, but
If you were watching the video version of this podcast, looking at the screen, everything from now on is going to be evidence compiled by some of our artist friends directly dissecting the game and whether or not it's AI. We are not necessarily focusing on that on our discussion because, again, we have laid out we are 100% certain that this game uses AI. That's not the
right.
problem here. It's the lying, and that's what we want to talk about.
Correct. And I'm even going to go one step farther, okay? I'm going to play Omega Devil's Advocate here, Jacob, and I want you to roll with me. Let's say we live in a universe where we're wrong. Every artist we've ever known and been friends with is wrong. Every single commenter on Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere is wrong. And every single piece of Wildhearts artwork was handcrafted by the gods themselves, meticulously painted on canvas, okay? Let's play pretend and imagine that's the universe. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't even matter at this stage, because the response that the Wildhearts team has given to these accusations has been so consistently bad that it makes them look extremely sketchy. That's kind of that's like the top layer of the issue here. Like, yes, we know they're lying, but even in the world where they aren't, this is still bad. They've still done a terrible job. They've still done poor PR, and they've still done a disservice to their fans and players. Because, again, when you receive criticism on one of your videos, setting it to private is not the response. The response is taking that criticism in stride and rolling with it. They never do. The response isn't to bite back and attack back. That's not the correct response. The response to these serious allegations isn't to do some corpo speak magician sleight of hand to try and change the topic. Wrong response. You need to engage with it honestly and directly. And the correct response to when a legitimate industry professional with years of experience in the tabletop field like yourself directly confronts them and lays out exactly what's going on and what the consequences will be. You need to have an honest dialogue with that person, and that's not what Wildhearts did. So that's, even in the best case scenario, this is still irredeemable.
Yeah. No. And it's so hard to present it that way because this is irredeemable. I don't see any way you can come back from this. And honestly, if there's one goal of this video, it's not to attack these people. It's not to get a witch hunt brewing against them.
No, and
It's
of course,
consumer awareness.
Right, exactly. It's consumer awareness. And just again, to reiterate the normal thing, every time, you or I, individually or together, talk about a bad actor in this industry, this is not a call to action by any means to seek out these people and attack them and tear them down. That's not the point. Do not do that. Do not harass these people under any circumstances. We just want you to be aware that these people are doing bad things in this industry, and don't support them. Don't engage with them. Don't even comment anything at all. Maybe give them a Reddit downvote and move on. That's it.
Right. And if you're an indie game designer yourself, learn some lessons from this. I'm not saying you'd ever be in this particular situation, but public relations are very important and something I think indie game devs tend to be really bad at.
Yes. In all fields, from tabletop to digital, indie game devs are routinely bad at it because, at our core, we are auteurs, we are artists. And, whenever we receive criticism, a lot of times it's so easy for our brains to take that as a personal attack. And that's a skill that, I think everybody in this industry needs to work on and build up even more, is just being able to take hard feedback like that. And that's, again, one of the things that I've really wanted to talk about in this of, even in the world where they did nothing wrong, they still did something wrong, and that is an inability to take criticism.
Yeah, that is a huge problem in our industry in general, and I think this is a particularly bad case.
Yeah.
But also, it feels bad to me. It hurts because making a game is really, really hard.
Yeah, it is.
Making a game that on any sort of level succeeded, even harder.
Yeah.
And to make one incredibly, incredibly stupid, even vindictive mistake like this is killer.
I
It
agree.
will kill your project. And I think about all the people who are passionate about this game, and I feel sad.
It is. It's really sad for the people that backed this, because again, we gotta reiterate, for a small scale indie project, Wild Hearts has done well for itself. I mean, nearly $20,000 is not nothing. That's what many small scale indie card games will make, is about revenue of that. It is, and I think it's just for their players that they've gotten deceived and they've gotten lied to. Nobody deserves that. The Wild Hearts community, the Wild Hearts fans deserve better than this, and I hope they get it.
They certainly do. I mean, I cannot imagine being lied to and deceived like that by any game I've ever played. That's on a whole different level. Like, I've had my problems with the games that I cared about. I've quit games because I was mad at them, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I don't feel I was ever straight up defrauded by one of them.
Right? Exactly. I mean, even with all of my gripes against Bushiroad and Cardfight Vanguard, they've never just committed fraud, at least. I mean, is that the bar now? Is this where we're at, Jacob? Is this the bar in our industry? Don't commit fraud, you're one of the good ones. I think that sucks if that's the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that hurts. This is not a, this hurts on every possible level, from every angle. It hurts. It's sad. And I just wish it didn't happen. And here's the other thing, Jacob. Here's the thing that just melts my mind about this. Wild Hearts could have been exactly the same as it is right now, had probably even more success, even more fans, and even more revenue than it does right now if they were just, I don't know, honest about using generative AI. I know many games that do. I personally don't. I do not condone its use in commercial products. That is my choice with my company. But I am on good terms with a handful of developers that make the opposite choice. Literally this morning, I had a business meeting with a developer for a tabletop RPG that uses generative AI to make its artwork, and we had a very good, like, peer-to-peer conversation about his game and his work, and it was very cordial. And I asked him about his use of generative AI. He has been extremely honest. He was honest on his Kickstarter. He told me everything that he does and exactly how he does it, and how he makes sure, to the best of his ability, that none of the work that he uses for the training data is illicitly gained, which is great. Good for him. I'm happy for that. That is one of the better ways to use the thing. And he talks about how his particular tabletop RPG needs, hundreds and hundreds of illustrations. And I was like, yeah, artwork is one of the most expensive parts of making a game. Believe me, I get it. Being on a budget is really hard. And so that's why he made the call to use generative AI, because he's a very small project, extremely small project, has a handful of fans. They like to buy his books, his PDFs, and play his game. And genuinely, he felt the only way that he could add the illustrations and art that he needed to make his product was to go the generative AI route. And this creator did everything that he could to, in his mind and in his opinion, ethically source it. But the most important thing is that he's honest about it. He's extremely upfront about it. It's plastered, one of the first things that you see about this particular game, everywhere. No one who is playing his game is under any delusion that it isn't generative AI. And if you are comfortable with that, Great, excellent. Go out, enjoy the game. Personally, I won't be playing that game. But like, you know what I mean? Like, they would not be receiving anywhere near the same level of bad press if World of Wild Hearts was just like, yes, we use generative AI to create our artwork. Here's why, here's how, this is our process. There's even tons of AI bros out there that would have cheered and shouted and popped the confetti over an AI TCG being a success story, which Wild Hearts could have been.
Absolutely. I want to really hone in on one of those things. It's why would you lie about this?
It
And
doesn't
I
make
really
sense.
see two reasons. One is that there will be some negative backlash to using AI. There is always negative backlash. Whether or not there's positive as well is another story. That's not what we're focusing on. But
Correct.
there will be people who voice their opinions that they don't like it. So you made the active decision to hide that fact for that reason, trying to game the system and spend less money and try to not receive that debuff that all AI games will receive. Or B, ego.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to present that you're doing everything correctly. You're doing it all real. You're legit. You're a big boy.
Gosh, you're right. You're right that those are the two reasons, and both of those reasons, in my opinion, are so to put it as nicely as I can, so naive. Because first off, if you're going to try to lie about using AI, you could at least get AI artwork that doesn't look like bluntly hot trash. Sorry, World of Wild Hearts. I'm going to be mean to you now. Your artwork's terrible. Like, the fact that I've seen AI artwork that is genuinely hard to piece out of the crowd, to figure it out. Not World of Wild Hearts. One glance and it's bloody obvious. Like, what is happening? So if you're going to lie, at least do a good job at lying about it. And if you're going to want, and if this is an ego project and you're like, I'm a cool guy, I got a big card game, then, there's actually ways to do generative AI and still pretend that you're getting real artwork, because you can gen a bunch of images and then hire some, dude to like draw over them or touch them up slightly. You know what I mean? And the artwork in World of Wild Hearts is so sloppy, even that bare baseline obviously isn't.
Right. There are creative ways, if you can't afford artwork, to have artwork. I've done games with very minimalistic style. That is one way where it's not costing you money because you're using basic shapes as part of your aesthetic. You're not making a detailed art style. A great example, I don't remember the name of the game, but within the past few weeks, I saw someone post to some of the like game design subreddits their like standard. It was like a very like historical war game that used cards,
Nice.
and they couldn't afford artwork. So did they generate it? No, they used all public domain actual paintings from the Middle Ages.
Oh, that's wonderful. What a great idea. Using stock photos is not a point of shame, and I bring this up all the time, but part of the reason why using stock photos like that and public domain photos like that is not a point of shame is because literally Pokemon does. There is an entire breakdown and research into every single background in the base set of the Pokemon TCG. It's all stock photos.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's good enough for Pokemon, man, it's good enough for you.
Right.
You can just do that. And another
look
thing
at
that
look at how much people like chase after and try to document all of the like sound samples in classic video games. Like every sound sample from Ocarina of Time pretty much has been discovered exactly what sample CD it came from.
Yep.
That's how they got in trouble with the Islamic chanting,
Yeah, because it came from a sample. That's right. That's right. I remember that. I remember that. And I mean, another good way to get artwork in your game on the cheap is, like you mentioned, go for a simpler style. But here's a couple like ideas just off the dome. You can buy in like asset stores, like the Unity asset store, the Unreal asset store, and different like asset places, packages of pixel art. And pixel art is actually something that's pretty easy to learn, especially if you have a base to go off of. So there's nothing wrong with purchasing those base pixel art assets and remixing them and touching them up and sort of photo bashing them together to get the artwork and illustrations for your cards. I've seen several physical games go for like a pixel art style, and it looks absolutely incredible. One of the recent ones I was talking about was Cribaggio, actually. So, shout out to Cribaggio because they look fantastic, and it's all pixel art.
Yeah, that's the thing. There are so many ways they could have avoided this situation. So many. But they chose not to. And repeatedly, this is not they flipped a coin and said, nah, we're not going to tell you guys it's AI. This is a repeated, refuted lie for well over a year. Multiple responses of them directly lying about their content. How would I ever trust you about anything? This isn't a situation of this is going to kill Wildhearts. This is going to kill the careers of everyone working on it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
If you're working on this game and you had nothing to do with this, the first thing you need to do, to be frank, is jump ship.
Run. If you are a Wildhearts team member and you are listening to this podcast and this is all news to you, run right now, because this is going to end your career. I really can't stress enough how bad this is, and it's so frustrating and saddening because, gosh, was this something that could have been so easily avoided by everybody involved? There's no reason why this needed to happen, and it sucks.
And what I want to say is, where do we go from here? That's the big thing, is what are the actual consequences of this? Because I'm going to be honest, frankly, if there are no consequences, I'm going to think very sadly of my industry.
I agree.
This is not something that should be acceptable by anyone. Now, I'm not saying this needs to be brigaded. I'm not saying people need to white knight over this or be weird or cause problems or dox anyone or anything weird. Please behave yourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I really just want to focus on is how can we as a community deal with this situation and situations like it? Because this is not a one-off. We are unfortunately going to have this exact scenario play out many times over the coming years. So the first thing is obviously don't buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And absolutely. I'm not saying don't buy this because it's AI. That's a choice for you to make.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll share more of our thoughts on that. Again, not here or there. It's the lying, the deception that's the problem. That's what needs to be addressed.
I agree. It's the lies that are the issue. If you are a big AI bro, there's other AI TCGs out there for you. There's so many. There's I can think of half a dozen off the top of my head. Go support one of the ones that isn't lying about it. Please. I cannot implore you enough to just not talk to people that lie to you.
And this comes to a point I would like to make, which is I am in a weird position here where I genuinely have power to do something about this. Not just put out a video like this and be like, yo, this is a problem. I have, due to the communities I run, the ability to do something. And I have thought long and hard about it because, honestly, I prefer very light moderation. Not quite at the level Kickstarter does, right?
Right.
But I don't like to step in. I don't like to wield power. I like to foster a community and let them generally, unless something's really, really bad, police themselves, right? But I've made the decision that for the communities I run, like the TCG subreddit, I will be banning any promotional post from the Wildhearts team going forward.
I think that is completely fair because it is blatant false advertising. And I don't think that should be acceptable. I agree with that decision.
So that's where we're at. I think this is completely irredeemable, and I feel bad for all the fans of this game. I feel so sorry for them. Although I'll say there aren't that many, right? We're not talking a huge game here. Why don't we take a moment to tell the people who liked Wild Hearts and got tricked by it some recommendations for some fun other games they can check out,
Yeah, I
preferably
can.
ones we don't make, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not, don't worry. I am not going to plug my own stuff here by any means because I actually have some recommendations of even larger games with larger communities that I think will kind of scratch the itch that Wild Hearts was providing. Because Wild Hearts, at its core is a Pokemon clone. And if you're out there and you're looking for a really solid Pokemon alternative that has great store support, because I'm also a game store owner. And this company has been really good to me as a game store, which automatically gives it a recommendation. Please go check out Alestrals. I think you'll really like it. I think it's a solid alternative to Pokemon. It's got really nice artwork, an excellent style, and the Alestrals company, as I said, doing a great job with store support. They've made sure that I've gotten all of my promos. They've been really on top with all of their pre-orders and getting those out to me. And just in general, they're doing a really good job on organized play. So that is my Wild Hearts other recommendation is, if you're a Wild Hearts fan, give Alestrals a shot. I think you'll dig
Yeah,
it.
I'll say the creator of Illustrals. I don't play Illustrals. I've never played it. I'll say the creator of it, A Drive.
Mhm.
I've had several conversations with him, and he seems to be a genuine, nice, good person. Right?
That's great.
There seems to be some good integrity there, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no,
Any other
and
games you can think of to mention?
I gotta say, just big shout out to my friends over at Wise Wizard Games. I know some of the guys that work there. They're all fantastic people. They're all stand-up dudes. And Wise Wizard is making some of the best gosh darn card games on the market.
Oh
You
yeah.
cannot get a better value than Star Realms, my friend. You just can't. Star Realms is a blast.
hmm there are so many excellent games out there. Even, I mean, here's the thing: games where you fight with cool beast creatures are in no shortage right now. There are
No short
so many out there. Go find one that treats you, the player, with respect.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And, I got to say, if you're looking for an indie game specifically, something small, something rogue, something scurrying around, come check out Tabletop Aces. We've got a bunch of people there, folks that would love to talk to you. And there's frequent folks looking for playtesters for their games. So, if you're looking for something new and you're looking for something small, pop on into TTA, pick up that playtester role, and see who wants to show you the ropes.
Absolutely. Thanks for plugging my stuff.
I said I wasn't going to shill me. I never said I wasn't going to shill you.
Yeah, absolutely. We will have links to all the things
Yep,
provided.
absolutely.
Absolutely. You guys know how that works. And the big thing is, I just want to thank you so much for watching this and giving us a shot. We're not trying to be super inflammatory here. This is very much just something that needed to be addressed, and it needed to get off of our chest because, there was a moral, requirement here.
Yeah,
We felt we needed to talk about this and report on it to the people out there like you. And I hope, you've gained something from this discussion, and maybe we've even entertained you a little. So thank you so much for watching. And, if you are enraged by this game and you want to do something about it, instead of attacking anyone or acknowledging them or giving them the sweet algorithmic boosts of commenting on their stuff negatively,
just ignore
you
them.
could just share this, get the word out to more people. I think that's always good.
My best advice on how you, as somebody in this space, can do your part to make sure that another Wild Hearts doesn't happen is just flat out ignore Wild Hearts and give your love to the other fantastic tabletop games out there in the indie space. There are so many that are great and are upcoming and are actually worth your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Have a wonderful night.